Hello, welcome to another one of Mr. Deep in Science lessons. For today's session you're going to need a book and a pen and a worksheet which you can download in the link below. In your books I would like to get down today's title, which is Unicellular Organisms, and for your starter activity I would like to recall the 7 life processes. So the 7 things that everything that's classified as living does. And for each one of our 7 life processes there is a picture clue to help you on screen. I'm going to put 5 seconds on the clock, and if you need more time, pause the video, and when you're finished, we'll go through the answers together. Have you got your processes? Let's have a look. So all living things are capable of movement. All living things reproduce. All living things sense, maybe not in the same way that we do. All living things are capable of growth. All living things respire to release energy. All living things excrete, and that's because all living things require nutrition. In today's lesson, we're going to state what a unicellular organism is. We're going to compare the structure of 2 unicellular organisms, the Amoeba and Euglena, and we're going to compare the structure of the unicellular organisms to animal and plant cells. And an easy way to remember our 7 life processes is Mrs. GREN. And if you take the first letter of all of our 7 life processes, you can get them to spell out Mrs. GREN. Movement, reproduction, sense, Mrs. Growth, respiration, excretion, nutrition, GREN. And keeping in mind that all living things do these 7 processes, I would like you to answer the 2 questions that are in these boxes. Number 1, suggest why a virus is not a living organism. And number 2, suggest why a bacteria is a living organism. And if you still want a challenge, you can make a suggestion on how bacteria reproduce. I'm going to put 5 seconds on the clock, and if you need more time, pause the video, and when you're finished, we'll go through the answers together. Have you got your answers? Let's have a look at why a virus is not a living organism. A virus can reproduce, and even when it reproduces, it can't do it without a host. Some viruses can move and some can't. Viruses don't eat anything, they don't have any nutrition, and because of that they don't excrete anything. Viruses themselves quite often don't respire, but instead require a host cell so they can steal energy from the respiration of the host cell. Now let's compare that to our bacteria cell. A bacteria cell can move, they can reproduce, they can sense things, they can grow, they can respire, they excrete things, and they excrete things because they require nutrition and they break them down and make waste products. And so a virus is not considered a living organism because it does not carry out all 7 of the life processes, whereas a bacteria is classified as a living organism because it carries out all 7 life processes. And this is important when we are defining our unicellular organism. We can break down this word unicellular into uni, which means 1, and cellular, which means cell. So let's put that together, a unicellular organism. A single cell, but in order for it to be classed as a living organism, it needs to carry out all 7 of the life processes. So a unicellular organism is a single cell that carries out all 7 processes. So now we can state what a unicellular organism is. The next task is made easier if you're using the worksheet, which you can download below. If you haven't got a worksheet, then I'd like you to sketch this amoeba, and as I talk about the organelles of the amoeba, I'd like you to label them on your diagram. Our amoeba contains a nucleus, which contains genetic information, or DNA. It also has something called pseudopods, which literally translated means false feet, and these are used for movement and for engulfing food. It has a cell membrane which controls what goes into and out of the cell, and it has a food vacuole, so food that has been engulfed by the pseudopods are digested in the food vacuole, and it has a contractile vacuole which excretes water and waste products. Our Euglena also has some new organelles, and as I'm talking about them, I'd also like you to think about why our Euglena needs to detect light. So let's start off in the middle. We've got the nucleus, and that contains our genetic material in the form of DNA. It has an eye spot, and an eye spot detects light. Our Euglena contains a cell membrane, which controls what goes into and out of the cell. And it has a flagellum, a tail-like structure, which is used for movement. It also contains contractile vacuoles, like our amoeba, to excrete water and waste products. And our Euglena also has chloroplasts, which are the site of photosynthesis. So if you've had a think about why the Euglena needs to detect the light, this is so it can use its flagellum to move where there is a higher light intensity, so it can do more photosynthesis, because remember, photosynthesis produces glucose. Our Euglena is producing its own food. For your next task then, I'd like to copy and complete this table. It's got 5 headings and it's got 8 rows. And for each one of our organelles, I would like you to state whether or not it is present in the amoeba, euglena, plant or animal cells. And I'd like you to do this by either placing a tick if it is there, or a cross if it isn't. The vacuole has been done for you, and because a vacuole is found in our amoeba, then we're going to put a tick under amoeba. Because our vacuole is found in our euglena, we're going to put a tick in euglena. Because our vacuole is found in our plant, we're going to put a tick in our plant. But there's no vacuole in an animal cell, so we're going to put a cross in our animal cell. So you need to put a tick or a cross in the correct box to show which organelles are in each type of cell. I'm going to put 5 seconds on the clock, and if you need more time, pause the video, and when you're finished, we'll go through the answers together. Have you got your answers? Let's start at the top with nucleus. The nucleus is found in the amoeba, euglena, plant and animal cells. The cell membrane is found in all 4 of our cell types. The cell wall, however, is only found in the plant cell. Remember, animals don't need cell walls because we have a skeleton for support, and our single cell organisms can exist without that support. Chloroplasts are found in the euglena and the plant cell. They are not found in the amoeba and they are not found in the animal cell. The flagella was only found on the euglena, and the eye spot was only found in the euglena. So now we have compared the structure of a unicellular organism to that of animal and plant cells. Next, what I'd like you to do is, using the information on the worksheet, I would like you to try and answer the following questions in your book. If you haven't got the worksheet, I'm going to put the information on the screen and you can pause the video and answer the question. And the questions we have are, what does our amoeba and our euglena eat? How does the amoeba reproduce? How does the euglena reproduce? And I want to know how each one moves. I'm going to put 5 seconds on the clock, and if you need more time, pause the video, and when you're finished, we'll go through the answers together. You got answers for all 6 questions? Let's start with our amoeba. So what does the amoeba eat? The amoeba engulfs bacteria and algae by using its pseudopods, and it digests them in the food vacuole. How does this reproduce? By a process called binary fission. This process of binary fission requires the cell to duplicate all of its organelles, including its genetic material, and then split into 2 genetically identical cells, essentially forming a clone of itself. So unlike animals, you only need 1 cell for reproduction. And how does this amoeba move? It moves using those pseudopods. So next, let's look at the euglena. How does the euglena eat? Well, the euglena doesn't actually eat. It doesn't consume any food. Instead, it creates its own glucose by the process of photosynthesis. This is why it has a little eye spot, so it can detect where it is, a flagellum, so it can move to where the light intensity is the greatest, and then it can photosynthesize at a faster rate to produce more glucose. How does the euglena reproduce? It also reproduces by binary fission. All the organelles are going to duplicate and you're going to end up with 2 genetically identical euglena. How does our euglena move? It moves using its flagellum. So now we've compared the structure of our amoeba and euglena in a bit more detail. So there's one more thing I would like you to do before we wrap this lesson up. I would like you to design your own unicellular organism. And for each one of its 7 life processes, I want you to explain how it carries it out. So for nutrition, I want to know what it eats, how does it engulf it, how does it get the food into the unicellular structure. I want to know how it excretes its waste. I want to know how it grows. I want to know how it reproduces. I want to know what sort of things it's going to sense. And I want to know what method your unicellular organism is going to move by. And that will bring us to the end of our unicellular organisms. I hope you've had a great lesson, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching the lesson. If you found it useful, don't forget to press the like button, and why don't you subscribe and press the bell icon as well so you know when the next lesson's available. You can also support me on Patreon, and you can follow me on Facebook and Twitter, and I appreciate all the support. And I'll see you next time.